There comes a moment in every honest searcher's life when a quiet suspicion begins to form, a suspicion that the person you have been calling me is not quite what you thought. It starts softly, like a whisper drifting through the cracks of your certainty. You pause, you blink, and for a brief second you wonder who exactly is blinking, who exactly is pausing, who exactly is living inside this peculiar, ever-changing body. That is where this exploration begins. Most of us grow up right inside a story taught to us before we knew how to question it. You are a person. You have a name. You have a past. You have preferences. You have responsibilities. The whole thing is packaged neatly and handed to you as if it were an object you could carry. And since everyone around you accepts this story as something solid, you do too. It is easier that way. Society runs on these little packages of identity. They help us keep track of one another. They let us say things like, I did this, or you hurt me, or she is talented. But then something strange happens. You begin to grow aware of the machinery inside the mind. You catch thoughts appearing without your permission, emotions rising without your approval, memories drifting through without request. They come and go like weather. Yet the story tells you that you are the one producing them. You are the thinker behind the thoughts. You are the one steering this whole vessel through life. So let us investigate that story. Let us take a gentle but honest look at this thing you have been calling yourself. Sit quietly for a moment and notice your thoughts. Do not judge them. Do not resist them. Just watch. Thoughts appear like birds landing on a branch. They stay for a moment. They flutter away. Sometimes they bring pleasant songs. Sometimes they screech like rusty hinges. But whatever they bring, they come and go by themselves. You do not summon them. You do not sculpt them. They rise. They fall. They vanish. Now ask yourself, who is the one receiving them? Where is this manager who is supposed to monitor them all? Is there a thinker behind the thoughts? Or are the thoughts simply appearing in awareness? Search for this inner manager. You will not find a single handle to hold. What you will find is a flowing field of experience. Sensations moving, perceptions shifting, thoughts bubbling like water on a stove. But no pilot, no central figure, no little homunculus behind the eyes pulling levers. And here is where things begin to get interesting. Because once you realize that you cannot locate a solid self, the whole structure of the ego begins to loosen. It loosens not through force, but through the gentle pressure of truth. Consider the feeling of ownership. We often say, my body, as if the body were a possession. But did you design it? Did you craft the bones? Did you shape the heart? Did you even decide the color of your eyes? Of course not. The body appeared in the world before the idea of ownership showed up. Ownership was added later, like a sticker placed on a suitcase. It is convenient, but not actually informative about what the suitcase is or where it came from. The same goes for your mind. You say my thoughts, but the vast majority of them show up without your consent. You say my emotions, but they erupt like storms that pay no attention to your schedules. You say my personality, but much of it was absorbed from your environment, your parents, your culture, the strange accidents of childhood. So what exactly are you claiming ownership over? The truth is that the ego is a kind of social fiction, a very sophisticated, very useful fiction, but a fiction nonetheless. It is a story pattern like the plot of a novel, and nothing in the novel is separate from the pages that hold it. Think of a wave rising on the surface of the sea. It has a shape. It has a style. It moves with its own flourish. It might even think, if waves could, think that it is separate from the sea. But this imagined separateness creates fear, because if the wave believes it stands alone, then the entire universe becomes something to defend against. It becomes a battle for survival. The wave tries to hold its shape forever. But all waves rise and fall. All waves dissolve back into the ocean. Now imagine what happens if the wave recognizes its true nature. It sees that it is not the shape, it is the movement itself. It is the sea expressing itself in a temporary form. The fear begins to evaporate, the anxiety softens. What seemed fragile now becomes part of a vast rhythm. You are that rhythm. You are not the shape you temporarily take. You are the field from which the shape appears. Once you begin seeing this clearly, an extraordinary ease enters your life. You stop needing to defend your story so fiercely. You stop needing to appear a certain way. You stop treating every criticism as a threat to your existence, because your existence does not depend on a narrative. It does not depend on whether others approve of you. It does not even depend on whether you approve of yourself. The ego may protest at first. It loves being the hero of the story. It loves being special. It loves being praised. But the moment you stop feeding it with constant attention, something beautiful occurs. The ego relaxes. It becomes a tool instead of a tyrant, a mask instead of a prison. And this is not about destroying the ego. This is about seeing it clearly. When you see it clearly, it becomes light as a feather, flexible, playful. You can pick it up or put it down as the moment requires. Imagine waking up in the morning and remembering that you are not a separate entity trying to conquer life. You are life itself. You are not pushing the river. You are the river. You are not struggling to keep your thoughts tidy. Thoughts drift like clouds across the sky of your awareness, and clouds do not worry about their own shapes. When you stop gripping this sense of self so tightly, you discover something spacious beneath it, a kind of silent intelligence that has been here all along. It breathes without being told. It heals cuts without instruction. It maintains billions of cellular processes without a single thought from you. And this intelligence is you in a much deeper sense than any story ever could be. Feel the breath right now. You are not doing it. It is happening. Life is doing it. Life is breathing itself through you. Life is looking out through your eyes. Life is hearing these words. Life is moving your hands. Life is dreaming in the shape of a person who calls himself or herself an individual. What a magnificent illusion. What a beautiful piece of cosmic theater. Let us look more closely at the fear we often associate with the idea of the ego dissolving. Many people imagine a loss of control. They fear they will become passive or unmotivated. But the opposite is true. When you are no longer weighed down by the constant pressure to maintain a fixed identity, your actions become more natural, more spontaneous, more creative. You respond to life instead of reacting in panic. You flow instead of resist. Think of a dancer. If the dancer spends every moment calculating how to move, the performance becomes stiff. The dance becomes awkward. But when the dancer lets go of the idea of being a separate self performing a dance, the dance begins to dance itself. The body follows rhythms it never consciously learned. Movements arise from a place deeper than intention. Life works the same way. When the ego loosens, you do not lose control. You lose the illusion that you ever had it in the first place. And once that illusion fades, a more authentic intelligence begins to guide your steps. Now, some might say, if the ego is a fiction, then what remains of me? What is left when I let go of this story? What remains is awareness itself, the open field in which every moment appears, the silent witness that is not separate from what it witnesses, the space in which thoughts rise and fade, sensations come and go, sounds appear and vanish. The space remains, the movement passes through it, and you are that space, not as an object, not as a thing, but as the very capacity for experience. This is why so many spiritual traditions point to the same insight, though they use different languages. They say the self is an illusion. They say the world is one. They say consciousness is universal. These are not beliefs to be memorized. They are pointers, clues, invitations to look directly at your own experience. Try this simple experiment. Close your eyes for a moment and notice the sounds around you. You might hear distant traffic. You might hear the hum of a refrigerator. You might hear the faint rustle of your own breath. Now ask yourself, where does the listener end and the sound begin? You will not find a border. Experience is seamless. Awareness does not sit in the head like a tiny creature behind a control panel. Awareness is more like a field that everything is happening within. When this sinks in, even a little, life becomes far more gentle. Conflicts soften, grudges fade. You stop needing to insist on your story being right. You stop needing everyone to see things your way, because you realize they are acting out of their own stories, which they believe just as strongly as you once believed yours. Compassion arises naturally, not as a moral rule, not as an imposed virtue. It arises because you see yourself in everyone else. You recognize the same fear, the same longing, the same grasping for identity, the same confusion, and the same hidden light shining quietly behind all of it. To realize that the ego is a fiction is not to erase your personality. You will still laugh, you will still cry, you will still enjoy your favorite foods, you will still love the people you love, but you will no longer mistake the costume for the actor. You will no longer mistake the wave for the sea. So when the next moment of self-doubt appears, pause. When the next surge of pride appears, pause. When the next rush of anxiety tries to convince you that your entire identity is at stake, pause. Look behind the thought. Look behind the feeling. See what is there. You will find spaciousness. You will find clarity. You will find presence. And you will find that none of it belongs to an individual self. It is simply the nature of reality shining through. The ego is a useful fiction, but only a fiction. The deeper truth is that you are not confined to the story. You are the storyteller. You are not a fragment of the universe. You are the universe appearing as a fragment for a little while. And when you see this with even a glimpse of sincerity, life takes on a new softness. You do not need to hold yourself together. You were never in pieces. You were never separate. You were never trapped in the role you thought you had to play. You are the sea. You are the sky. You are the space in which the moment blooms. And once you see this, even for a breath, the whole world feels lighter. The whole world feels like a dance that was always happening and will continue long after the idea of you fades like a dream out of which you gently awaken.